Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes
Again,
or no? Yes or no?
Actually,
No,
that does
that's not a
answer
yes
her
or no.
question.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
Oh,
But this, as director
What do you represent,
of the NIH,
Marjorie?
you did sign off on these
Certainly
so-called
can't be
scientific
America.
experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci.
You need to stop. As Marge has promoted Christian nationalism and has recently arrogantly clarified that she worships God, raising her hand, while religion is supposed to be constitutionally kept as separate of politics, one, I don't see how she represents politics, let alone government or her own elected position. Two, who is she to question anything about Dr. Fauci? Even if Anthony is corrupt, that's still science. What is Marge about? Worshipping God, a being that expects obedience and worship, and will judge and punish all who don't submit to him? Or even believe he exists? Marge wants the entire country to obey God's laws, not the Constitution or America's laws. I have to disagree with and criticize Anthony here, though. Yes, it was a yes or no answer, but again, the question coming from Marge is just wrong, for the reason I've just explained. Worshipping God is not about America or its politics, certainly not people, while Christianity is antithetic to science. As for the two dogs, Vosh has mentioned that these dogs were only subject to sandflies, which is nothing to worry about, as he said. Looking this experiment up for myself, I can't agree with Vosh based on what I've read about this. However, Marge thinks harassment is okay, along with kicking people. I think it was that gun activist 2 years ago. As for these dogs, while I agree that experiment was wrong, this is the first time Marge has brought that up during her years-long vendetta against Anthony here. Not to mention Marge is not a scientist and has nothing to debunk either masks or vaccines, which is why this hearing is going on, I think. She also expresses her contempt in Congress, which is not what Congress is about. I remember Troy from the Midas Touch a few years ago mentioning that Congress members aren't supposed to be hateful toward people. To be fair, though, to Dr. Fauci, she didn't even explain anything about this experiment or ask him anything about it. That discounts this segment. Of course, as others have pointed out, Marjorie is only including this picture to use in her own favor toward Donald at Kristi Noem's expense, in effort to appease Donald to become VP, which I believe, and means Marjorie could never care and wouldn't be trying to use this against Dr. Fauci if Kristi didn't shoot that puppy to fucking death. Which I'm still angry about. I could say that even if he's guilty of ill treatment, the general Republican outrage is fake, because this is the first time I'm hearing about this. Dr. Fauci, among others, has been a Republican target for a few years now. Kristi has been under deep fire for her book from only a month ago. People could say everything Marjorie stands for is abhorrent and unconstitutional, and that she has behaved abhorrently many times over her years needs to stop. But she would complain that we're attacking her.
You also represent the type of science where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6
said.
feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made up. You
I
made it
didn't
up
say
as you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on. But you also told the
It's
American
still
people
science.
they
It's
had
just
to
a shitty
distance by 6
experiment.
feet.
An
They
immoral
had to
one.
wear masks. But let's also talk a little bit further about the type of science that you represent. NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about, is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks, to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially?
Actually, that would be science. It's just unacceptable. That could be a valid example of why he can't be trusted. But again, Marge didn't explain anything. She's only trying to claim it isn't science. That has nothing to do with this hearing. As for COVID, Marge is against all of the protocols, as she was busy ranting and raving about American rights the whole fucking time. Where's the policy in that? How is that congressionally responsible? She doesn't want to keep the hospitals free for patients with other health problems? She did sometimes wear a mask, but only to have bullshit text on them, to bully and trigger. I'll also mention that she also, deliberately didn't cover her nose. She held up a New York Post quote, but what has she or any other Republican done about pharmaceutical companies gouging people with severely overpriced prescriptions and assistive technologies, acting like a mafia? Now, how about we talk about MAGA politicians being paid with those same taxes, while they do fuck all, as Marge herself stupidly admitted recently, mainly because of her own self doing nothing. Or would that be attacking this butchy, God-worshipping snowflake? She accuses Fauci of fabricating guidelines and abusing Americans, yet she's accused Jewish companies of starting wildfires with a laser. Marjorie has never abused anyone? He's only a mister in her few minutes, which she shouldn't have because she's a disgrace to America. She has no credibility whatsoever. Her supporters can only ever praise her for fighting, being brave, and patriotism. All void. Is Congress about being brave? I don't even understand how she is brave, considering the Democrats are fucking useless. Nobody has ever removed these MAGA circus clowns and trolls from this committee, and permanently banned them from politics. Democrats do nothing but argue and fact-check them, while all of the YouTube pundits title their videos with keywords like humiliated, embarrassed, destroyed, etc. No, the Democrats are no force to be feared. She doesn't need his answer, while she hasn't said or asked anything valid yet. 6 minutes left of this shit. She's so fucking arrogant and miserable. Her voice is irritating, aside from being incredibly fucking stupid. Of course, I do enjoy her misery, because she's a degenerate troll.
When the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children, do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection.
I reclaim my time.
Objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will
Point of order.
suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in
Gentlelady will
prison.
suspend. And the gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become?
Just get rid of her, for fuck's sake.
Is this
She's
what we have
nothing.
devolved into? No decorum.
You know what? We can do that hearing about the poor men that were injected with syphilis because I support you in that. That's horrific. And this government that
I
does
would
things
urge
like that to
Miss-
Americans doesn't have decorum to the American
Mr.
people.
Chairman,
The gentleman is out of
point of
order.
regular order, please.
The gentleman is out of order.
Decorum.
recognize a point of order. Go ahead with your point of order.
No, I mean, I was going to say what Representative Raskin said. That's completely unacceptable to deny Dr. Fauci, who's here, a respected member of the medical community, his title, and that's actually a personal attack on his character.
And I have instructed her.
He's not respected.
And I've instructed her
Neither are you.
to address him as a doctor.
Certainly not by enough people, anyway.
I'm not
Gentlelady
addressing
shall
him as
continue.
doctor.
She has a
Let's
small
talk about-
following.
let's talk
Yeah,
about
she has a
this.
small
I'm
following on
reclaiming
Twitter
my
and
time.
get her. That's
I'm
about it.
reclaiming my time.
Words get taken
I'm
down then.
reclaiming my time.
Second that.
What's
Point of
that?
order,
Thousands
Ms.
of people.
A member can only move to have words, I'm sorry. The issues we are debating are important ones that members feel deeply about. And while vigorous disagreement is part of the legislative process, as I said at the beginning, members are reminded that we must adhere to established standards of decorum in debate. This is a reminder that it is a violation of House rules and the rules of this committee to engage in personalities regarding other members or to question the motives of a colleague.
Okay, so what's the end
Remarks of
game
that
with
type are
Marjorie's
not permitted by
bullshit?
the rules and are not in keeping with the
At
best
what point is
traditions
she
of our
removed?
committee. The chair will enforce these rules of decorum at all times and urges all members to be mindful of their remarks. Does the gentleman from California have anything further?
Well, we should have to take her word stand.
Yeah, I made it, I offered that her words be taken down, Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a
She says she doesn't need his answer. Well, people could say we don't need her constant nonsense or bullying. No matter what Fauci says, though, she'll just dismiss, as she's just verbally kicked the man down with her silly Mr. Not Doctor remark. She also denies climate change. Is this committee about any member's personal opinion or feeling? No. So only in her minutes he doesn't deserve anything? Okay, we'll take it. They're only her words, after all. Shouldn't she be spending her minutes to make progress in this hearing, which actually shouldn't be taking place, instead of talking her own baseless opinions and feelings? Has Congress really been reduced to defamation? Again, we could do the same to her, but she would play victim. Anthony belongs in prison, according to her, but if we told her the same, she would claim that we were attacking her and dismiss our words as antics. The guy asked if this is what Congress has devolved to, and the answer is yes, mainly because none of them will grow some fucking balls and force her out. Permanently. Why is she there? The guy then criticizes Marge for degrading Anthony. While they're giving her that time, it's their own fault. Marge just said Anthony is not respected. No, actually he is. She, on the other hand, is only respected by however many thousands on social media, who don't matter because they're mentally ill. They support this despicable woman. Again, so bitter and contemptuous. And for what? He made her follow some emergency guidelines for a pandemic? The guy carries on again about decorum, knowing Marge is just a low-life psychotic. Just get rid of this deranged loser. He really expects her to comply? She's trying to get this man found guilty for giving the public some guidelines, for fuck's sakes. She only cares about herself. Now they are talking about having her words taken down. They think that's going to make her behave herself? What's the point of that?
point of order.
Mr.
Because
Griffin
they
is
accused us
Mr.
of
Griffin is-
worshiping
Gentlelady
President
will-
Trump. We don't
Gentlelady-
worship President Trump.
Gentlelady will suspend. Mr. Griffin, you have a point of order.
Mr. Chairman, while it may not be polite, I believe the rule only applies to members of this body, the Senate, and the President of the United States. I do not believe that it applies. The rule on taking down words does not apply to a witness. Again, I'm not condoning the words. I'm just relating or asking whether or not it applies to individuals who are just happen to be here in front of us.
I agree. The chair overrules the point of order by the gentleman from Maryland, but asks that members please afford all other members the respect they're entitled, refrain from using rhetoric that could be construed as an attack on the motives or character of another member or the witness.
Yeah,
You
good
may
luck
proceed.
with that.
Thank you. This was a time in history where you got to throw out the first pitch at the Washington Nationals baseball game, while Americans were forced to stay home and watch such events that they love from at home alone on their televisions. And what a hypocrisy this picture shows. Here you are without your mask, with empty seats everywhere. Remember the cardboard cutout fans? That was one of the most insulting things to Americans, having to watch the games from home, where you got to go and enjoy the game and sit right next to people, not following the 6 feet of distancing, not wearing your mask, and everyone else was forced to stay home and stop enjoying life. And your science here, your science
Well, maybe the
is
pandemic would have
displayed
stopped earlier if you guys
perfectly
didn't
in this picture,
rebel
where
against
children-
the masks and vaccines
children
like the
in school
fucking babies
were
you
put
guys
in
all are.
plastic bubbles because of your science, your repulsive, evil science. And let's go back to your very own email. You said
Your
earlier you
repulsive,
don't
evil
use email.
religion.
Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email where you said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words. But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks.
Yeah, like you
Healthy
give a fuck about children.
Forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools.
You should be
And then
muzzled.
they were forced to learn from home because of your so-called science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison.
Marge interrupted to make a point of order, clarifying she doesn't worship Donald, but nobody said she fucking does. I don't understand the relevance of that in this room. This isn't even about Donald, only her witch hunt against Dr. Fauci. Holding a picture of Dr. Fauci and two other people, she might actually be right about his hypocrisy, while everyone else has to sit at home. However, her attempt to point out he's not wearing a mask is without merit because all three of them may have already been tested, and it's only them who are there. Marge is grasping at straws with this. None of this stands against science or the guidelines. Marge is only trying to pick on him. She then tries to argue children being individually quarantined in school, but there are many children there, and it's a social environment. They're obligated to be there. His hypocrisy means this is wrong? They're supposed to be free and risk getting infected? She says his science, which is a red flag, while also nonsense because nobody can have personal science. She either doesn't know what science is or she's deliberately playing word games. I would guess both. But anyway, I'm sick of this shit. Well, it's almost over, but I don't really feel like listening to that shit. Whatever.